Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Scare Us Already, where we discuss current and past horror films and give you our take on them. I'm your host, David, and I'm here with my co host, Cheyenne.
Hi.
Today, we'd like to talk about the recent increase in religious based horror films. As we all know, since the early days of making films, filmmakers have been trying to use religious beliefs, myths, and superstitions to scare moviegoers. From the classic Nosferatu to the most recent The Exorcism starring Russell Crowe, the fight between good and evil wages on. But are we kind of tired of this fight? Has the fight really become just humdrum? If you think back, considering the earliest of films, 1896's The House of the Devil. It's based on a German folklore where this character Mephistopheles, he's an agent of the devil, and he basically conjures up these demonic entities to terrorize these two guys that happen to stumble upon his castle. Then, of course, and this is a spoiler alert if you ever want to watch it, one of the men uses a crucifix to make Mephistopheles disappear. Since then, we've seen countless vampire and demonic supernatural films using the same crucifix wielding technique to combat evil. So let's start our discussion with the most recent release, The Exorcism, starring Russell Crowe and directed by Joshua John Miller. The film revolves around a troubled actor named Anthony Miller, played by Russell Crowe, who begins to exhibit disruptive behavior while filming a horror movie about an exorcism. He's not the first head or lead priest to be cast in the spot due to unexplained accidents that have been plaguing the set. So, Shy, do you have any other information on the film?
Yeah, so the movie was written by M.A. Fortin and Joshua John Miller, the director, released on June 21st, 2024, and starring Russell Crowe, as you said, Ryan Simpkins as his daughter, Chloe Bailey as the lead actress in the Exorcism movie, and David Hyde Pierce as the priest. I'll say I thought Chloe Bailey, although she did a good job, was an unnecessary character to really have. I didn't think she added anything to being in the actual majority of the movie.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I.
overall,
Mhm.
I thought the movie was had a good opening the first 5 minutes. The initial scare that it did, I'm not going to say any spoilers, but the initial scare that is in the trailers was really good still seeing it like on the screen. So
Uh,
I wish that it had the ambiance throughout the whole movie,
mm.
but it really like didn't. It kind of just dropped a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. So the film right away insinuates that most, if not all, films involving supernatural things or demonic content are either jinxed or cursed. With the whole sage blessing, warding off evil. But the film never really explains why this is happening. I get the whole thing about the Russell Crowe character, um, you know, having had issues with drugs and alcohol, his wife passing away, and his daughter not really connecting with him. But why did this particular set all of a sudden become a feeding ground for a demonic possession? Are they, again, it just seems like it was thrown in there with no real reasoning or explanation.
Yeah, and like you said with the his struggles with alcohol and drugs and his estranged daughter, I thought that they brought that up fluidly at first, but not throughout the whole. So the first 10 minutes of it, maybe they show him talking about his struggles in a confession, which I thought was not necessary. Then they have him right after talking to the director about his struggles. And then literally a scene after, no, sorry, before that, going to talk to his daughter and his daughter bringing up the exact same issues. And then directly after, doing this audition and telling the director the exact same issues. And I felt like that became so repetitive for it to really not go anywhere, or at
Hmm.
least not to be done well, because I was like, this would be so cool and good to see a movie where the possession is not taking over a young girl, isn't taking over a good father, it's taking over someone who has struggled with alcohol and drugs. And so everyone around them is questioning if this behavior is them falling off the wagon, if this behavior is them being on withdrawal, if this behavior is demonic. And I just felt like it really didn't go there. And even the priest could have easily said, like, oh, you guys saying the demon's name so many times in this movie is calling him out,
Hmm.
would have been a good way of being like, this is why those kind of movies are cursed or whatever. This specific movie is cursed. And it just would have added more to the movie and more to the backstory of the characters than what
Hmm.
they chose to go with.
Yeah, but what I thought, and of course, anyone who's ever seen The Exorcist, you could easily tell they were basically making The Exorcist, the exact same house set. Um, but for me, the overall story seemed pieced together. It seemed as though they were writing the script as they went along, and it felt rushed. And on top of that, um, the film just relied heavily on effects that we've seen numerous times in other demonic supernatural films. So it just didn't work for me, as a type of exorcist film or exorcism film that I would say it was remotely entertaining. A lot of the scenes kind of dragged, brought it down to a snail's pace, and then they would try to throw in a jump scare or something to get the audience back into it. But yeah, I just didn't think it had enough in the story that would have made it original or made it remotely, something unique. It just kind of played on the same formula, the same cliches, the same jump scares. So again, not a great movie, not at all.
See, I disagree slightly. I think if they had changed it to focus more on the father, on Anthony's character, and
Hmm.
his struggle with trying to not fall for this demon and not fall back into drugs and alcohol, and really paid attention to him and told it more from his point of view than his daughter's point of view, I think
Hmm.
it could have been original. I think it could have done something. It would have been the same jump scares and the same thing that we've seen 101 times, but I think the core story of it would have been a little different. It would have been more like the Babadook, to be honest, with how that mom was struggling with her mental health and dealing
Hmm.
with her son and her depression and this demon.
Hmm.
It would have been really good to see that from this point of view of a father who's dealing with alcohol and drug with sobriety, and him kind of turning back to that to kind of quiet these demons that are trying to take over him and possess him. That could have added something different to the story, but they just wanted to do too much. They had his history with the church. He had his struggles with his daughter, the daughter's being kicked out of Catholic school for being gay. And it just felt like there was too much happening and too much trying to be said that
Hmm.
was unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a play on, our inner demons. When you have a drug, an alcohol problem, and you're going through, sobriety, you're always fighting those inner demons. You want to drink or you want to smoke some weed or do some cocaine. So those are those inner demons, and that's kind of what they tried to play on. They tried to say
Yeah.
he was being possessed by his inner demon, to do drugs or to drink or whatever. So, haha, yeah, I get it. But then to actually make it a demonic possession, I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, someone had a okay idea when they thought about the story, but again, not something that I would recommend. Maybe on
No.
streaming, but yeah, not in the theaters. And sadly,
Yeah.
as of late, Russell Crowe seems to be taking on numerous roles, but he's to me, he's dialing it in. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's really into a lot of the roles he's been in lately, and I can definitely point out the Pope's Exorcist. So it seemed kind of weird for him to do the Pope's Exorcist and then turn around and do the Exorcism, because to me he just doesn't seem to be into his roles. It seems like he's just going through the script, and it reflects on film. I mean, I didn't care for his character at all.
Mm-mm.
His issues with his daughter, I felt nothing.
I didn't care for anyone.
Yeah, yeah. It
I didn't
the
think
rest the
anyone
rest of
was
the
well written
hmm yeah, the rest of the
or even well
cast was just
acted.
pointless.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
definitely.
rest of
Like
the
Ryan Simpkins, who plays the daughter. Like I said, I wish it didn't focus on her. She was fine for the most part, but I really
hmm
wish she was a secondary character. Chloe Bailey's character was absolutely useless. She could have been like the other priest guy. Not the actual priest, but the one who was playing his assistant, where he
oh
was in it, but not a
S-
star in it, and not a
Sam
main.
Worthington.
Yes, thank you, Sam Worthington. And then the priest was good. David Pierce, who played the priest, he was good. He was fine, but I guess he was fine to be necessary in the storyline wise, but
Yeah.
they just did not try with writing any of these characters. They just really wanted a way to put in jump scares and have people talk in between.
hmm
Because
Yep.
there was one scene that I got tense for, which was the staircase scene.
hmm
That scene was well done. That scene was kind of creepy, but outside of that, everything else was like you said, a cliche, something we've seen so many times. Because these religious movies um, have all kind of seen what works in some movies and said, "Oh, let's just remake that 101 times,
hmm
and it will keep being scary."
No, you're right. You're right, and that leads me to our main topic about religious based horror films of late. I mean, just in the last less than a year or a little more than a year ago, we've had The Devil's Conspiracy, The Offering, Consecration, The Nun 2, The Exorcist Believers, Immaculate. Is it Immaculate?
Immaculate.
The Exorcist Believers, Immaculate, the First Omen. It just seems like we're being bombarded with these religious based films to prey on our sense of faith, but a lot of it is just the same rehashed um, effects and storylines.
Yeah. Like I put all the movies in themed order for myself.
hmm hmm
We have pregnancy, usually a nun, and usually to bring back either the devil or God. And then you have the devil conspiracy,
hmm
deliver us, immaculate, and the first omen, which immaculate is basically a rehash of the omen mixed with Rosemary's Baby.
hmm
Deliver us and the first omen are actually almost verbatim. Did you watch Deliver Us?
Yep.
Yeah, almost verbatim the same movie, even with the quote unquote twist ending of the first omen, which spoiler, if you don't want to hear, go to this timestamp. But the ending part of her having twins is the exact same as Deliver Us, being the big plot twist or whatever. Then you have priest facing the loss of faith
Wait,
or needing to regain faith.
I'm sorry. Which one did you say?
The first omen and Deliver Us.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I thought you
Yeah.
said The Exorcist.
No. No, the first Omen had that.
Okay. All
Or maybe
right.
I did. Okay, well, first Omen. And then priest facing a loss of faith or needing to regain faith slash a possession, which then you have obviously this one, the exorcism, the exorcist believers, the The Offering, The Pope's Exorcist, Late Night with the Devil, and Nefarious.
Hmm.
And lastly, you have A Nun having to face evil, which obviously The Nun 2, and Sister Death have all had that. And these are all movies within 1 year.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that's kind of ridiculous.
There's been a lot, and as I mentioned, all of these films seem to rely on the same scare tactics and effects that we've become so accustomed to that it's it's not scary anymore. It's not scary, and it doesn't make me question my faith, or oh, I need to go to church kind of thing. It's just it's just the same rehash stuff. And in my opinion, I think with a lot of these films, they're trying to capture the not only the successfulness but the intensity and scariness of the 1973 film The Exorcist. But I think The Exorcist worked for two reasons. One is that the film didn't rely on a lot of blood and gore. We get that a lot in some of these recent films. There's a lot of blood, a lot of gore. I mean, besides the pea soup projectile vomiting in The Exorcist, the film didn't really rely on a lot of hokey effects. It did a lot of sounds and eerie shots of the house and things like that. And sure, spoiler alert for those of you who have not seen the extended or re-released version where uh, Reagan, the little girl in The Exorcist, comes walking down the stairs, kind of like a backward spider. And I'm glad they left that out of the original, because it was kind of hokey. We had enough with the head spinning. So,
Mhm.
that I think that would have just kind of ruined it. And then my other reason, or my other point that I was going to get to, is that the film was released in the 70s. By 1973, film goers had not seen anything like that. But the biggest thing was the legend was created because of word of mouth. The moment people heard that audiences were running out of the theater, scared, fainting in the aisles, vomiting, that put The Exorcist on a level that I don't think any film will ever be able to reach. And that was all just
No,
based on word of mouth.
and I think that's also kind of the same thing with the idea of Blair Witch. I mean, Blair Witch did so well because they did that documentary beforehand.
Hmm.
They had the website that was randomly going up. They had actors who no one knew. It was such an under wraps movie that people really did believe. Oh my god, could this be real? Oh my god, is
Hmm.
this a real thing? And you can't do that as much anymore. And people continue to try to with these found footage things that are coming
Hmm.
out, but
Hmm.
everyone's sort of able to look up so much more information nowadays than when that movie came out, and it was so brand spanking new. And it's kind of the same thing, yeah, with The Exorcist. It was new. It was at the time close to when Helter Skelter was a big fear, and everyone thought that the devil was, you know,
Was Charles Manson.
corrupting young people's souls, and Charles Manson and all these different fears that obviously parents are going to be like, oh my god, this is horrifying, this is terrifying,
Hmm.
as a
Hmm.
brand new thing. And nowadays it's like, well, I mean, we've seen worse, we've seen better, we've seen all of this. Immaculate. The only fear in that movie for me was the idea of female autonomy being taken away with pregnancy.
Hmm.
That's the only real fear that most women that I've seen review Immaculate have is the idea of being forced to have a child that you did not want or conceive.
Hmm.
But besides that, everything else is. I'm no one's scared of the devil from these movies.
No, no, and for the film like The First Omen to go as far as to say the Catholic Church wanted to create the devil or a demon, the son of the devil, to get people to go back to church, I thought was just beyond ridiculous. So again, I feel movie studios need to take a break from the religious based horror films. The genre has become stagnant. There's only so much you can really do with demon versus church, or trying to insinuate that religion is just as dark and evil as evil itself. Once you've kind of gone through all the religious based films and you've seen all the similarities and the same visual effects, where else can you go? That's my take on it. So maybe the studios need to say, you know what, let's leave the religious based horror films alone for now until someone comes up with something original. Because
Yeah.
yeah, it's just getting to the point where I don't even, when I see a new religious based horror film come out, I almost dread going to watch it.
Yeah, or I skip it on Netflix.
Yep.
Like I if after watching Sister Death on Netflix, it gave me I think 5 more recommendations for some movie revolving around some priest or nun
Hmm.
having to face their inner demons and all that stuff, and it's just like, wow, 5 movies doing the exact same story
Yeah.
back to back. Like this it's yeah, they need to take a break. They need to put out monster movies again or slasher movies, something new. I mean, I'm excited for a few new things coming out, like Speak No Evil and Never Let Go.
Hmm.
Those ones I'm psyched for. They look like they're doing at least something relatively new, even
Hmm.
though one's a remake. It's still going down a genre that's not being overly done right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Psychological horror. Um, like you said, maybe do a few new slasher movies, or some new monster movie, and not the same type of monster we talked about in our previous episode, but
Yes.
something new, something original, something to get audiences excited about. uh, Again, if I see another trailer for another religious based horror film, I'll probably scream because there've just been too many,
Then
and they're basically
then
all
don't watch the
disappointing.
trailer for Nosferatu.
Well, Dracula, Nosferatu, um, although they use the whole crucifix thing, and and if you bury, you have to bury him in holy ground, and this, that, and the other. It's still religious based, but it doesn't really go into the whole the priest and the church, and
Yeah.
it doesn't go that deep into that type of that type of storyline. But yeah, and to talk about the Exorcist believers, again, I I was excited when I saw the trailer for it, because I thought maybe they were gonna do something really good with it, but
Uh-huh.
I think it was just another in the line of another Exorcist film that pretty much just used the name to try to
Yeah.
get audiences to go see it. They could have called it anything else; it wouldn't have mattered, because it just wasn't worth it. And
No.
I think they used a lot of the effects that were in the original. They just tuned them up a little bit, but yeah, it just wasn't a good film. So fingers
Yeah,
crossed
sadly.
that they'll give us a break on the religious based horror films, and maybe give it a good year or two and then come out with something else.
Definitely. I hope so. So, what do we give The Exorcism as a rating?
I would definitely give The Exorcism a blah, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Did
I give it
not,
a nah.
yeah,
Don't bother.
don't bother. Wait for it to come on streaming, if you got a couple hours to kill.
But if you've seen The Exorcism, leave a comment down below on what you thought of it, how you would score it. If we're wrong about anything, let us know. And then let us know your favorite religious horror movie if you have any.
Yeah, definitely, give us your feedback. We welcome any comments. And we know that not everyone has the same taste in films or the same opinions about films. Some people see things differently than others. So again, this is just our take on what we felt about certain movies.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching and listening to our podcast. Go ahead and give us a follow, subscribe, and a thumbs up. And hopefully, we will see you in the next episode of Just Scare Us Already.